as we talk about natural disasters and risk, we need to recognize that low-income and minority communities are the ones who tend to be the most impacted by natural disasters. One reason for this is that they live in the more vulnerable areas. If we think about Katrina, when it hit New Orleans in 2005, when the levee broke and the Ninth Ward flooded, the reason that was the part of the city that flooded was because it was the lowest part of the city. The reason it's a low-income neighborhood is because it's the lowest part of the city and the most vulnerable to flooding. So our decisions in the past about how we build and where we build has created the conditions under which these low-income communities, these marginalized communities, have to deal with the impacts of hazards that wealthier neighborhoods are more protected from. So in 2005, the French Quarter, the Garden District, the wealthier areas of New Orleans did suffer damage. They did have some flooding, but they were much less impacted than those low-income neighborhoods that were built in those low-lying areas. In addition to just being in more vulnerable areas, oftentimes these low-income neighborhoods have worse building quality. They have worse infrastructure, so they don't have as much capacity to withstand the impacts from coastal events. This may include poorly maintained stormwater systems. So when rain falls or the storm comes through, the stormwater system doesn't have the capacity to move the water out of those neighborhoods efficiently. So they see flooding not from a river overflowing, but simply from too much rain falling that has nowhere to go because the stormwater infrastructure is not properly maintained. These neighborhoods may also have less green space, so there's less impervious surfaces to help absorb that water. They have more parking lots, more pavement, less places for water to go, so it ends up collecting and causing flooding problems. So these factors, being in vulnerable areas, having less well-maintained infrastructure, less infrastructure in general, less green space, all serve to make these neighborhoods more vulnerable for a population that has the least capacity to respond effectively.